Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Brian Fitz. Please do me a favor and gently hit that subscribe button. I appreciate that. I get this question almost every single day when someone realizes I was in the military, and usually it's about their kid or someone they know that wants to join the military, and it's which branch should I join? I think honestly, most people they're asking the wrong question entirely. Here's what nobody tells you. Choosing the wrong branch could cost years of your life of misery and missed opportunities and regret. But how do you pick the right one? It's the difference between loving your service and just counting down the days until you get out. Well, I'm about to break down the 5 factors that actually matter, not the recruiting jargon or those posters, right? So you can make the best decision of your life. And stick around because I'll reveal which of those branches has the best quality of life, and it might surprise you or not. So, number one, first thing is for all of those services, you want to know what their missions are, right? That's the first thing you want to understand. So, for example, if you're going to choose the Navy, you're commanding the ocean, right? And so what do? They project power globally, and that's what they're there to do. And they control the seas and the waterways. So the reality is you will be on a ship at some time. Very few people join the Navy and don't spend some time on the ship. They do have aviation, which you may avoid some ship time, but you still do flight deck operations on a ship. And maybe you're EOD like me or some other, niche type of service where you don't spend as much time at sea. But even I did. I spent time on a ship. And then, you'll be stationed at coastal areas when you're not at sea. Now, that's a perfect fit if you love being on the water, if you love to have a scheduled routine that's pretty, seamless. Type of person that gets seasick and you hate being away from the land, then the Navy might not be for you. So let's talk about the Marines. In the Marines, you're part of a much smaller group of people. It's the different branches as far as population is concerned. And your mission is to be first in, right? And because of that, you're going to have a different type of culture, right? They're all about amphibious assault and clearing the beachhead for the naval vessels and for making access into shoreline. So their locations and duty stations are kind of limited. You'll be in North Carolina or California, Hawaii, and Japan. Those are the primary locations. It's perfect if you want to be part of kind of a prestigious group to be known as a Marine. It's a tight brotherhood. But if you're not ready for like tough military culture, like yes or no, ma'am, then maybe the Marines isn't the thing for you. And then there's the Air Force. So obviously the Air Force mission is to control the skies, right? They're the sky kings. So the Air Force, they want to dominate the air and space, right? And also cyber domains. And their primary mission is the air sector. And the big advantage for the Air Force is there's a lot of different locations with airfields all throughout the United States, and the locations are great, and some overseas as well, like Ramstein, Germany. That's an example. But one of the minuses is not everybody flies planes, so everybody in the Air Force is there to support the person flying the plane. In essence, everybody else is a support staff. So the ground force, which is the Army, what is their mission? It's to win battles anywhere in the world. And, one of the things about the Army is they have a lot of bases, right? So there's a lot of choices, but a lot of times those are in remote places like you might not want to live in because they're training areas. So they have to kind of be away from population centers. It is definitely the largest branch in the military. So that means there's more opportunities career-wise. You'll have more opportunities and more jobs to choose from that might better fit you. The reality is those bases aren't always in desirable locations. So now part two, which is which career field do you want to choose and what do you want to actually do? So this is a very important question. And so there are some universal careers that, doesn't matter which branch you're in, they're going to have personnel that can perform these skills like IT and cybersecurity, medical and dental, military police, supply and logistics, or like public affairs and communications. Each branch has personnel that can do that, and you can do those jobs in each branch. But then there are some branch specific jobs, like for example, a nuclear technician in the Navy or a sonar operator. There's also aviation maintenance, like because the Navy does have an air department, right? And they do fly off of carriers and things like that. For the Marines, you'll be focused on infantry as like your primary specific, and artillery and reconnaissance. So that's what the Marines do. As far as the Air Force, it's like air traffic control. So think of an air traffic controller at an airport, pilot, base operations with, we're talking about Space Force. In the Army, there's pretty much every job you could think of that's inside of a town, plus whatever the military needs, right? So like you have your special forces and military intelligence, but you also have like your cooks and you have your logistics people. And so, there's a broad range of jobs within the Army. And so then also we're going to talk about the cultural differences. The Navy is very rank conscious. So, they have enlisted, an officer, and those things are separated, and they try not to intertwine as much as like some of the other services. And on top of that, the Navy has lots of traditions. So like you have the chief's mess, which is like goes way back, in time, and the traditions that they do in order to become a chief, they hold those traditions as very valuable, and it's a very unique and exclusive club to be in. As far as the Marines, it's really about discipline. In the Marine Corps, I noticed like in E4 and E3, there's definitely a rank difference. Whereas in the Navy, in E4 and E3 are kind of the same type of rank, so there's no like difference. But in the Marines, they take it very serious as far as those type of structures. The Air Force, it is centric on the pilots, so it's very focused on what the pilots are going to do, and so everybody else supports. And the Army is obviously the most diverse, so you have some very, very simple jobs to some extremely technical jobs. So it's very broad. So just try to say like it's one thing. Anybody tells you that doesn't really know anything about the service. So here's one of the things that a lot of people are, wanting to know, which is quality of life. So which branch has the best quality of life? Which branch has the worst? So let's start with the worst. And the worst by far is the Army. I don't know if you knew that, but because it's such a big organization and has so many people, there's a lot of old facilities. They're on remote locations. They have high op tempo, and they like to muster constantly. And that's because they have so many people. They muster at 05, 06, 07. That means like, like remember when you took attendance in school? It's like that, but you're doing it like every hour. And I have a lot of experience with that because I was in the Navy in special operations, and we did a lot of Army classes in schools in our training, and we had to just conform when we were there, and it was just absolutely brutal. We would just get up at like 4 in the morning just to muster at 5, and then muster at 6, and then just eat breakfast at 7. So it's just part of running a big organization and keeping command and control, and that's just part of just normal everyday Army life. And even if you're special forces, you're not going to get away from that. It's big Army is still is going to run the show. And then you have the Marines, and well, the Marines, they're kind of like a Spartan living. So think of like, your folks that are like living off grid inside of a van or something like that, and all the gear that you have to make it comfortable for you. The Marines kind of carry that with them all the time. So they have their backpacks. They can live out of a backpack anywhere in the world at any time. Now, they do have barracks and things like that, but that is not their primary focus. They're always mobile and always ready to go. So they have that ability to just kind of like, travel light and be able to travel anywhere. So if you like that type of culture, then maybe you'll like the Marines. There are limited bases, as far as locations are concerned, and they do have an embrace the suck mentality where it's like, even if it's crappy, they're like, this is great. So I've experienced some of that. I've worked with the Marines. I've done some training with the Marines, and I can say for sure that they embrace the suck. So second place will be go to the Navy, right? Because Navy has one of those times where it can be really arduous, but it also can be more like a civilian job depending on your rotation. So there's like it's a sea-shore rotation. So sometimes you're at sea, sometimes you're at shore, and it's pretty predictable. So it works out. They have good housing allowances and travel opportunities. That's the main thing about the Navy. You're going to travel all over the world. My first cruise when I joined the Navy, I think I visited 11 countries in one cruise. So when we say cruise, it's a deployment on a ship. And, hey, when are you going to be able to do that? So for me, that was really about travel, and I wanted to be overseas. So that's why I joined the Navy. There was more chances of me being overseas. And first place for quality of life goes to the Air Force, because the Air Force is running basically a terminal, or like, if you went to your local international airport, they have many of the same requirements when you're getting on a plane, except for it's all military planes. Sometimes it's cargo and people. Sometimes, it's strike missions and things of that nature. But ultimately, you have to run an airfield. And, they get really good barracks and dining facilities, because usually if you're running an airfield, it's in a permanent place. And they use modern technology and equipment, and they have really good base locations. There's airfields all over. So, there's always the Air Force. I think everybody that's in the military that's not in the Air Force is always happy when they do training on an Air Force base, because the quality of life is better. But not always, because sometimes they give you the condemned barracks, the barracks that they won't use, but are just good enough for the Navy or the Marines. Been there, done that. So number 4, how often will you be gone? And that's another really big question, right? Because some people want to know, will I ever be home? So for the Air Force, you have a much lower op tempo. So on the base, most of the time, you're running your operations out of that base. So, I'm going to say it's a 9 to 5. It's not. You work longer hours, and there's more commitment, and there's a lot more training that goes into it. But for the most part, you will have somewhat of your civilian life. So when you're deployed, you actually be creating another airfield, and your work is going to be very similar to what you did when you weren't deployed. So your conditions of living will be a little bit better than somebody who is, like a Marine just living out of a backpack. And, like I said, the Navy, they do 6 month deployments. Sometimes those extend 9, 10 months, depending. I got extended one time really long. So it's not always 6 months, but sometimes it's only 4 months or 3 months out at sea. And then, you're in you're on your shore duty, and your shore duty is mostly like a civilian 9 to 5 with a little bit longer hours, because it's the military and you have your watches and stuff like that. But for the most part, you get to live a normal life outside of your military duty. But the biggest thing with the Navy is your opportunity to see the world. You're going to travel, and you're going to see, I think at this point, I lost track of how many countries I've been to. It's over 50. And so how many people can say that? And I didn't pay to go to any of those. Well, I paid with my work and service, but I didn't actually have to book a flight. For the highest op tempo, it's going to be the Army and Marines, and they're about the same. And it's because their exercises that they do are really long. Their training exercises, and then if you include the pre-training and post-training requirements, those are pretty long windows. So, 12 months, that's common, within the Marine Corps and the Army. They're often in very remote places, so even when they're there, they don't really have an opportunity to, do the civilian type of stuff. But they find a way, they do find a way to get out there and have a good time. Those are the 4 most important questions you ask when you want to join the military, to figure out which branch you want to join. So you got to kind of figure that out for yourself based on what I've just shared, but also doing more research. Now, here's where most people make the biggest mistake, which is they choose a branch based on emotions, right? They see a cool poster, that guy's uniform is cool, and the Marine's got the coolest uniform, right? But maybe that doesn't align with their actual career goals, and they haven't even thought about their post-military career or their lifestyle preferences. So that's exactly why I have my coaching program. And because, this military decision, it affects everything in your life, your future civilian career, your family life, your financial trajectory, and basically where you'll live for the next decade, right? So in my coaching program, we don't just talk about which branch to join. We actually reverse engineer your entire military career path, and we set you up for success both in uniform and your civilian career. So, you don't want to just join the military and just think everything's going to work out, because it does take planning and tactical decision making in order for you to get the most out of your career. But you also want to have a good exit strategy. So if you're serious about making that decision, and you want to have the best military career possible, check my links below, because I'll help you with all of that process. Now, let's talk about one factor that, it's exactly the same no matter which branch you're in. And that is pay, right? So it's the great equalizer. It doesn't matter which branch you're in. Whatever rank you are, you're going to get paid the same. Whatever year of service, you're going to get paid the same. The housing and food allowance, for the most part, is the same. Some some departments give a little bit more leeway with their per diem and stuff like that. Some are a little bit more tightwad with that. But you'll get the same healthcare benefits. And then, where the real money differences start coming in is in specialty pays, like if you're a pilot or a diver or language pay or some other specialty. And that is going to be job specific. And then that's also going to be branch specific for that job, as well as your enlistment and your reenlistment bonuses. That will depend on which military branch and what job you have. It changes, it fluctuates, money comes in and out. It's not always the same. And I'm also going to help you with that. That's a big part of your decision making. And then if you go into special forces or special operations like I did, you're going to earn significantly more. I've done a video, and I'll leave a link there for you to see on just how much pay that is. So, whatever branch you choose, don't choose it based on pay, because you can find a way to get paid in any branch. Just choose the branch based on, what your career goals and what aligns with you and your career goals. So here's my bottom line recommendations. Okay, so you choose the Air Force if you want to work with a quality life and work with modern technology, high technology. You choose the Navy if you want to travel and you don't mind being at sea. You choose the Marines if you want to maximize your physical challenge and bearing and try to be within a very small knit group. You choose the Army if you don't mind rougher conditions and you want the most career options. Like, you don't know, you want to test some things out, you want to see what's out there. The Army's going to have the most. Now, you still have Coast Guard and you still have Space Force. And Coast Guard for me is somewhere in between Navy and Air Force as far as the things that I talked about. So kind of imagine you're somewhere in between there. And you actually stay in the United States more. It's Department of Homeland Security, but for the most part, it follows a lot of the Navy traditions. And then, the other one is Space Force, which is a new branch. I don't know a lot about it, but for the most part, it's going to be similar to the Air Force. A lot of the jobs are the same, and it comes out of that branch as well. So it'll be very similar to the Air Force. But just remember, at the beginning of your decision-making process, the specific job you choose within your branch matters more than the branch itself. I hope this video really helps you think differently about your choices in military and the decisions that you're going to make. Please smash the like button, hit subscribe, notification, and check my coaching links. And, if you want some more no-nonsense military advice, I'll be glad to schedule one-on-one calls with you as well. So finally, if you are serious about planning your military career and your strategy, which includes your exit into government professions, not just picking a branch out of the blue, but creating a roadmap for success, just check out my coaching links and it'll be in the description below. Your future self will thank you for making this decision with a plan instead of just seeing if it works out. Like swinging at windmills doesn't work out. So whatever questions you have about choosing your branch, please drop them in my comment section and I'll answer every single one of them. And remember, your military career isn't just 4 years of service, right? It is the foundation for the rest of your life, the foundation of the rest of your career, and you really need to choose wisely. So that's all I have for now. I'll see you on the next one. And do me a favor, if you're going to move with a purpose.